Hi you twos and welcome to Tuesday's story time. As you can see, I've got rather a lot of friends that have joined me today because they wanted to find out about whether these creatures that James is meeting are going to be friendly. I'm not sure where the little bear has gone. He was sat on my lap before. Can you see him anywhere, year twos? I know I've got the giraffe here. I know my big bunny is here. I am not sure where Bear has gone. If you see him, let me know at the end of the story, please. I know he'll be listening. Listen and enjoy. James's large, frightened eyes travel slowly around the room. The creatures, some sitting on chairs, others reclining on a sofa, were all watching him intently. Creatures, or were they insects? An insect is usually something rather small, is it not? A grasshopper, for example, is an insect. So what would you call it if you saw a grasshopper as large as a dog? As large as a large dog. You could hardly call that an insect, could you? There was an old green grasshopper as large as a large dog sitting directly across the room from James right now. And next to the old green grasshopper, there was an enormous spider. And next to the spider, there was a giant ladybird with 9 black spots on her scarlet shell. Each of these 3 were squatting upon a magnificent chair. On a sofa nearby, reclining comfortably in curled-up positions, there were a centipede and also an earthworm. And on the floor, over in the far corner, there was something thick and white that looked as though it might be a silkworm, but it was sleeping soundly, and nobody was paying any attention to it. Every one of these creatures was at least as big as James himself, and in the strange greenish light that shone down from somewhere in the ceiling, they were absolutely terrifying to behold. "I'm hungry," the spider announced suddenly, staring very hard at James. "I'm famished," the old green grasshopper said. "Oh, so am I," said the ladybird. The centipede sat up a little straighter on his sofa. "Everyone's famished," he said. "We need food." 4 pairs of round, black, glassy eyes were all now fixed upon James. The centipede made a wriggling movement with his body, as though he were about to glide off the sofa, but he didn't. There was a long pause and a long silence. The spider, who happened to be a female spider, opened her mouth and ran a long black tongue delicately over her lips. "Aren't you hungry?" she asked, suddenly, leaning forward and addressing herself to James. Poor James was now backed up against the far wall. He was shivering with fright and much too terrified to answer. "What's the matter with you?" the old green grasshopper asked. "You look positively ill." "He looks as though he's going to faint any second," the centipede said. "Oh, my goodness, the poor thing," the ladybird cried. "I do believe he thinks it's him that we are wanting to eat." There was a roar of laughter from all sides. Oh dear, they said. "What an awful thought." "You mustn't be frightened," the ladybird said kindly. "We wouldn't dream of hurting you. You are one of us now, didn't you know that? You are one of the crew. We're all in the same boat. We've been waiting for you all day long," the old green grasshopper said. "We thought you were never going to turn up. I'm glad you made it. So cheer up, my boy," the centipede said. "And meanwhile, I wish you'd come over here and give me a hand with these boots. It takes me hours to get them all off by myself." Why do you think it takes the centipede a long time to take his boots off? That's right, centipedes have so many legs, don't they? I'm going to start the next chapter, year twos, because I want to find out more. James decided that this was most certainly not a time to be disagreeable, so he crossed the room to where the centipede was now sitting and knelt down beside him. "Thank you so much," the centipede said. "You are so very kind." "You have a lot of boots," James murmured. "I have a lot of legs," the centipede answered proudly, "and I have a lot of feet, 100 to be exact." "There he goes again," the earthworm cried, speaking for the very first time. "He simply cannot stop telling lies about his legs. He doesn't have anything like 100 of them. He's only got 42. The trouble is that most people don't bother to count them. They just take his word. And anyway, there is nothing marvellous, you know, centipede, about having a lot of legs." "Oh, poor fellow," the centipede said, whispering James's ear. "He's blind. He can't see how splendid I look." "In my opinion," the earthworm said, "the really marvellous thing is to have no legs at all. and to be able to walk just the same. You call that walking, cried the centipede. You're a slitherer, that's all you are. You just slither along. I glide, said the earthworm primly. You are a slimy beast, answered the centipede. And there's the centipede with James, look, with all his legs and feet. That's a lot of shoes to put on and off, isn't it? I am not a slimy beast, the earthworm said. I am a useful and much-loved creature. Ask any gardener you like, and as for you, I'm a pest, the centipede announced, grinning broadly and looking round the room for approval. He is so proud of that, the ladybird said, smiling at James, though for the life of me I cannot understand why. I am the only pest in this room, cried the centipede, still grinning away, unless you count old green grasshopper over there, but he is long past it now. He is too old to be a pest any more. The old green grasshopper turned his huge black eyes upon the centipede and gave him a withering look. Young fellow, he said, speaking in a deep, slow, scornful voice, I have never been a pest in my life. I am a musician. Hear, hear, said the ladybird. James, the centipede said. Your name's James, isn't it? Yes. Well, James, have you ever in your life seen such a marvellous, colossal centipede as me? I certainly haven't, James answered. How on earth did you get to be like that? Very peculiar, the centipede said. Very, very peculiar indeed. Let me tell you what happened. I was messing about in the garden under the old peach tree, and suddenly a funny little green thing came wriggling past my nose. Bright green it was, and extraordinarily beautiful, and it looked like some kind of tiny stone or crystal. Oh, but I know what that was, cried James. Do you remember what it was, Year Twos? Do you think it was the bag that the old man gave James with the little green things in it? Let's find out. It happened to me too, said the ladybird. And me, Miss Spider said. Suddenly there were little green things everywhere. The soil was full of them. I actually swallowed one, the earthworm declared proudly. Oh, so did I, the ladybird said. I swallowed 3, the centipede cried. But who's telling this story anyway? Don't interrupt. It's too late to tell stories now, the old green grasshopper announced. It's time to go to sleep. I refuse to sleep in my boots, the centipede cried. How many more are there to come off, James? Well, I think I've done about 20 so far, James told him. Then that leaves 80 to go, the centipede said. 22, not 80, shrieked the earthworm. He's lying again. The centipede roared with laughter. Oh, stop pulling the earthworm's leg, the ladybird said. This sent the centipede into hysterics. Pulling his leg, he cried, wriggling with glee and pointing at the earthworm. Which leg am I pulling? You tell me that. James decided that he rather liked the centipede. He was obviously a rascal, but what a change it was to hear somebody laughing once in a while. He had never heard Aunt Sponge or Aunt Spiker laughing aloud in all the time he had been with them. We really must get some sleep, the old green grasshopper said. We've got a tough day ahead of us tomorrow. So would you be kind enough, Miss Spider, to make the beds? I wonder why they've asked Miss Spider to make the beds. Why do you think, Year Twos? Can you think why? Now, has anybody seen my little bear around while I was reading that story? I can hear you shouting. He's above me. Bear, what are you doing up there? I know you love to climb. He's obviously very comfortable and he's been very still while I've been reading the story, you twos. I hope you've all enjoyed it, just like I have, and my friends that I've brought along with me today. I look forward to reading the next part to you tomorrow. Bye.